think HIV over the last 30 years has been about change, it's been about evolution. It's been the move from a situation where we were worried about our lives to where we're worried now about our future. We have a future now, and I think that evolution has been something we've been on together. It's about working together to achieve a better future for us all, and those battles are still there to be fought. And I, for one, am happy.
I am a woman living with HIV. 30 years of HIV and AIDS. Wow. Well, when I was diagnosed 14 years ago, I would never thought that I would still be alive. But since I am, I think that one of my major concerns is that in spite of all the medical successes that we have, and I mean, I can live a pretty normal life thanks to antiretroviral treatment. The rights of people living with HIV are unfortunately still not always respected, even in a country like UK. Stigma and discrimination are still a big part of our lives, and I know, so many people that could never stand in front of this camera or cannot even tell anybody in their family or in their close circle of friends about their HIV diagnosis. And because of this, very often they might not access support, they might not access treatment, they might not even access testing and prevention. So 30 years after the discovery of HIV, what we really need to do is to address the fact that people living with HIV need to be treated with dignity and with respect.
I went through the eye of the storm with AIDS. I got diagnosed in 1985, very soon after they started doing the test. I had a boyfriend who died in 1990. I was very sick with AIDS myself, and got picked up just around in time by combination therapy in about the mid-90s. And then I had to find a new job for myself because I was going to live and not die. And that involved working for an HIV organisation, so here I am. I'm a sort of general HIV activist. I go trotting all over the world trying to change policy on various issues, and I also am a writer and do a magazine for people with HIV. I have a particular passion for prevention because I want people to stop getting this virus, not just living well with it. I think if we finally find an end to the epidemic, then that will also remove a huge burden of stigma for a bunch of people who don't deserve it.
I think in the early days of the epidemic, people were scared about HIV. At that point it was an untreatable condition. There was an immense amount of stigma, prejudice and discrimination. People lost their jobs, people were refused entry to public amenities. And I think 30 years of the epidemic has seen real improvements in the UK. People's attitudes have changed, they have improved. And now one of the big changes is we have laws to protect people with HIV very comprehensively and effectively. I think though now, whilst discrimination is dealt with very effectively in law, we need to challenge stigma even more robustly than we have done in the past. And the next stage in activism for people with HIV, people who are living well on treatment, is to stand up and be counted and face down the stigma that's around and require the public to accept people with HIV as part of the community. I
was diagnosed with HIV about 25 years ago, and for many years I didn't really engage with it. I lived with HIV but not get involved. More recently, in the last 5 or 6 years, I've thought actually I do need to stand up and be counted, play my part. So I started getting involved with a number of HIV groups, coming to conferences like I am today. And although there are challenges, I think the outlook for people living with HIV is significantly better than it was, or certainly better than it was when I was first diagnosed. I just think we need to keep making the effort to keep things getting better for everyone.
Interesting that they've been both progress and fallback. We've progressed because of new treatments and more people able to access care that means they live normal as much as normal a life as possible, but we've also fallen back because we've lost that sense of dynamism that an original AIDS diagnosis which people had in the 80s gave, and that created a sense of a need for action and a passion for action and a drive, and the treatments have in some ways reduced that, but I'm hoping that things like today can help bring that back to help make sure that we've got a HIV activist network that fights for people to get better services and better support.
HIV for me, I think it's been really quite a life-changing experience. I tested positive in late 1997, at which time the treatments had changed quite dramatically. People had stopped dying by that time. However, treatments themselves were really quite toxic. I think personally this is one of the main areas that there's been a huge improvement on. I find taking my drugs every day really quite easy now. Having HIV, I think, for me was really a good kick up the backside. I was really quite lazy and sort of didn't really do that much. And I've become quite active in the field of HIV. I found giving back to the community really quite rewarding experience. So in some ways, it's probably one of the best things that's happened to me.
Activism has changed so much in the 30 years. In the past there was much more about protest and trying to get involved in things. Now we're all knowledgeable negotiators, articulate, clever talking, but never really protesting or shouting.
I've been living with HIV since about 1989 or so, and I was diagnosed in 1992 when I was expecting a baby. My main activism in relation to HIV is around issues facing women in relation to HIV, in relation to motherhood, in relation to sexual and reproductive rights, in relation to gender violence, because globally we know that if women are exposed to gender violence, then they're more at risk of contracting HIV, and we also know that many women, once they have HIV, once it's disclosed to their partners or even to health staff or to others, they're actually experiencing gender violence as a consequence of HIV. Unfortunately in the UK, those links between gender violence and HIV, particularly for women, aren't yet recognised, and so that's what we're particularly working on.
The last 30 years for me with HIV has been really a journey. And I think the biggest changes that has happened for me is the way I've become very confident because services have really changed in the way they respond to HIV, the way they respond to people who are living with HIV. And also the biggest changes for me, I feel, is that stigma, we are dealing with the stigma head on. So I think really all I can say is we have to keep up the good work. Clinicians are becoming better, social services have become better, support people have become better, peer work has become better. So I look forward to the next 30 years of living with HIV. Yay!